Our mission statement is to save properties from being demolished and try to maintain some kind of a familiar skyline to the town. When it became apparent that we had a property that was going to be taken down, actually a total of 3, we kind of set out to look for our options. Some of our obstacles, not only being a kind of a tight time frame, but to move a house like one of these, you have to get this property fitting into a whole bunch of regulations and aesthetics. During the various trust meetings that we'd have on a monthly basis, I think we only kind of had 2 meetings where we were able to really discuss this project because we only have 1 meeting a month and time was ticking. We had looked at potentially in one of the housing developments getting a kind of a heritage row, a set of maybe 8 lots that we can put these homes onto. The difficulties with doing so is with current regulations, garage spaces, the width of the building, and the lots are designed small now to try to get maximum number of home lots onto a given size piece of property. Modern homes now all have the garages set towards the front of this, and on a house like the one that we moved here, it wouldn't really work because the house in itself, the front of the house was its smile. It was its picture. There was no room for a garage. We couldn't even make easements if we had stuck a garage on the side of it. And frankly, if you did, it would just kind of ruin the house. So that put us in a situation where we had to have a lot that was built or that was laid out in a way that this house would fit, which meant you basically had to have a lot that one of these homes once stood on. So I'd asked the board if I found a lot of my own, if I can kind of adopt the house and take this under my wing, which they enthusiastically accepted. And we reached out to my realtor and gave her an address to try to procure, which we did. It took a bit of time to get the property, to get a hold of the person. They had other plans with the property. They were just at a position where, explaining what we wanted to do with it and, maybe their life circumstances at that exact time. And, I hope they were able to make a nice little profit from what they paid for it versus what they sold for it. It just finally made sense to let go of it. So getting the lot and getting a house moved onto it, that was what our group's about. Now, to kind of backtrack, of course, none of this would be possible without huge support from my wife. She was incredibly supportive of this. Didn't hurt that she absolutely fell in love with the home and she loved the lot that we were looking to move it to. But you also, you need a lot of city support. Without them saying yes and without all the agencies involved in moving lights and street signs and mailboxes and so forth, closing roads, police escorts, Department of Transportation OKs and all that, it's kind of funny that the not insignificant amount of money is the smallest hurdle that you have to kind of climb to make this happen. But to answer the question, what makes you kind of want to do it, it's kind of a necessity is the mother of all invention. It was something that needed to be done, and you just kind of rolled up your sleeves and got it done. Well, I've owned historic homes for 22, 23 years, 24 years, something of that nature. I'd been involved with restoring historically significant automobiles, and when I say historically significant, not just an old classic car, but particular prototypes or won large races, Le Mans Grand Prix, things like that. So the idea of preservation has been something that I've just always been involved with. When everything was old and everything was original, preservation wasn't a topic that was discussed much. It was really restoration. It was taking something that was old and run down and making it look beautiful again. And that kind of created this long running kind of emphasis on restoration of everything. But pretty soon, everything was just kind of looking pretty, and there was becoming this opportunity to take things that hadn't been restored, but finding the beauty in the originality. And all of a sudden, that was the rare case. You could build a brand new home to look like it's been there for hundreds of years. But often in doing so, you kind of make it a little too perfect. To be able to sit there and see like a hand-hewn beam, something that's still got the axe marks in it, yes, that can be replicated, but when you can see it, in its natural state, and you see it with its imperfections and its flaws, there's a beauty in that. And I think, it's kind of really a lot easier to restore a home than preserve a home, because in restoration of a home, you're kind of go in there a little heavy-handed and just tear stuff up and make it look pretty. Whereas preservation, you're really working more on trying to reuse original materials, dimensions, the aesthetics, how it would have looked, even when it doesn't make sense. And that tends to not only take a lot longer, it costs a lot more money. And it's a little more complicated because you're having to peel back. You can't just go in there with a sledgehammer and knock walls down. You actually have to undo layers, years worth of kind of upgrades and modifications and get back to its simplicity. And when you get back to it and you see, wide plank pine floors and exposed nail heads and stuff, you find the beauty in that. And all of a sudden, because everything else has been tiled over and carpeted over and tongue and groove, and they hide the nails in the grooves, you start really kind of reappreciating seeing floors that have a little bit of a bow or a little bit of a slope or knot holes or cracks or the imperfections, and you find a way to find a balance with that. So I think learning to do that with the cars certainly helped me with visions of what can be done on properties. The preserved cars have a significant value increase over a restored car. So to do preservation on a historically significant automobile, there's a lot of financial reason to do so. On a preserved property, because we're not really looking to sell this. It's not a property that we took on to, flip or make a profit off of. Its financial relevance, I think, is to be determined probably by my kids when we're long gone. So now you're just kind of going, okay, the only guiding light I'm really going to use in doing this preservation on this house, after, of course, it being moved, is to create an image that people who once lived in the home or had once maybe come and seen the home gets to see it again and look at it and all of a sudden have a memory. It sparks a significant memory in their lives, or maybe one they read about in a diary, or we're told a story at the kitchen table once from grandma. So I mean, I think that's kind of the kind of guidance, the reward, and kind of the template to do a project like this. Just to kind of help create that kind of that bridge in generations and stories.